Welcome everyone to Drawing the 305 Way. 305, that's the number of my classroom where many people have learned how to draw. So today we're going to draw an ice cream cone a la Wayne Thiebaud. Thank you, Wayne. And I start with a box. A box is always a good idea to start any kind of drawing, any kind of painting, especially a sketch. The box sort of helps you to sort of prepare your mind that you're going to fill this inside of this box with where you're going to place objects and colors and values, basically your composition. So it's just sort of preparing your mind for that process that you have to do. You can't get away from the box. The paper is a box, the rectangle, the canvas is a box or a rectangle. So it's a really good way. It's very old-fashioned. This is the kind of thing you would learn in art school back in the day. So I start with a box, and I'm going to start my drawing really lightly. It's always good to start it. So this is the cone. This will be the ice cream part of it. And this is the cone. And then the cone, ice cream cone, is going to be in a stand. So I'm going to put this horizon line. And it's best to just draw your lines. You can always use a ruler if you prefer. But it's better just to draw it quickly. Just draw it with confidence. So the cone is in this hole. Well, the hole is a circle, but from our angle, the circle is foreshortened. This really gives a lot of beginning students struggles. It's like their brain knows that that's a circle, but they end up, to make it look realistic and three-dimensional, you have to draw an oval. So there'd be room for another ice cream cone, 2 ice cream cones, but we've got just one right here. So next is my light source. Let's say it's coming from the left side of the paper, which means this side of the cone is going to be lighter, this side is going to be darker. When a shadow defines the form of an object, in this case kind of a sphere, a cone, we call it a form shadow. Lots of ways of doing form shadows. You can do cross hatching, which is fun. Or you can just do squiggly lines, or you can do a combination of both. Form shadows start out light and blurry, and as the object gets further away from the light, it gets darker. Now you would think that the very edge of the cone here would be the darkest part. No, it's not. And this happens in nature all the time, and you can start looking for it. You'll see what happens is light molecules bounce off this and back to the cone, and you get this reflective light. It almost looks like a glow. So the darkest part is really not quite at the edge, but just a little bit inside. And depending on what you're drawing with, you can use your finger or a blending stick, and you can smear it. You want to get that nice blurry look for the form shadow. And we'll do the same for the cone. So I kind of start out with cross hatching, but it blurs. You can draw with whatever you like. I really like ballpoint pen. The light is going to hit the edge of this shelf, and it's going to cast a shadow. Cast shadows have usually a hard edge. Unlike a form shadow that starts out blurry and gets darker, cast shadows usually are just dark. And of course, we'll have a form shadow on this side of the cone. You notice I'm moving around the drawing a lot. I think it's a good thing to not finish the ice cream, then move to the cone, but to move around the drawing. I think it helps to sort of remember that it's really one drawing. And then the cone is going to cast the cone will cast a shadow. So you can go almost any way. If the light were here, I'm not sure the cast shadow would be there. But maybe there's another light coming from this direction. Either way, it's important to remember we're not a slave to physics. Our object is not to replicate it exactly, but to make a good picture. If we needed to replicate it exactly, we could just take a photograph. But I like to cast shadow off at an angle. It just kind of puts an angled line there. So I'm going to darken the lip of the shelf and fill this in too, just to distinguish that there's thickness to this board. Remember to start light. You can always make things darker. All right, I want to put a checkerboard pattern on the surface here. And to do that, we've got to use a little linear perspective. This one is pretty simple. So right up top is my vanishing point. So I'm going to use a ruler here. And divide the ice cream cone stand in half. And now you know your brain that a checkerboard is squares. But if I did that, it would look really awkward. We have depth perception. So we actually see things at an angle, but our amazing brains figure it out so quickly that we don't really think about it. So there's my vanishing point. And all these lines are going to go towards the vanishing point. You're going, what? This can't be so. I know that these lines are 90-degree angle. How is it possible that these angled lines, and it looks real, it looks natural. That's how you actually see things. This was a discovery made in the Renaissance in Italy, and it changed the face of Western art. Now they could create the most realistic looking drawings and paintings by using the formula of linear perspective. So we're just going to start to fill in. This story is that the artist that discovered linear perspective was so excited he couldn't eat or sleep for 48 hours. As well he should be. This is a pretty amazing discovery. And it did change Western art significantly. In fact, when you went to art school, that was a big part of your training, was to learn how to do linear perspective. Now, I'm not sure it's taught so much. In fact, sometimes when I go to a gallery, I will see artwork And I can see that they just really don't quite have the concept of linear perspective down. There is 1 point, 2 point, 3 point, 5 point. There's all kinds. Well, you can have as multiple vanishing points as you want. But usually 1, 2, or 3 is what you mostly encounter. We all know about the railroad tracks. There's another good example of linear perspective. You know those tracks are equal distance apart, but it looks like they're getting darker as they go on. And there you have your basic ice cream cone on a stand with a checkerboard pattern. Thanks, and come back to learn to draw the 305 way. Yeah.